Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Talking is Hard. Me, today we have a very special guest with us, Courtland. If you have seen his face before, you may recognize him from the We Are Dream Chasers podcast. I personally am a fan of his show. I think that what he does is really cool. Yeah, Corlin, if you want to take it away, introduce yourself, let the people know who you are and why you decided to join us this evening.
Hey, I'm Courtland, also known as CB. I just a host of the We Are Dream Chasers podcast. We just try to encourage people to chase their dreams and also grow from that process. And I came on the show because I listened to y'all first episode about creativity, and it was like y'all did a little shout out. It was like, hey, we trying to get some creative people on the show. So I was like, let me hit y'all up because I just really like the vibe of the show, and I like that y'all are trying to take different approaches to topics than what everybody else would take. So it's pretty dope.
Very cool. So I obviously like you have your own podcast where you sort of, I guess you can explain it better than I can, but your whole message is to just sort of inspire others to chase after their dreams and to just go after the things that they want in life and exploring all the different sides that comes with it, both the ups and the downs. So I wanted to ask you, like, first of all, like, how did Dream Chasers even come about and like what motivated you to want to start a podcast?
Yeah, I like that question. It came about because of the pandemic. I just felt lonely. I'm a people person, social butterfly, like Max said before. And with the pandemic, it was just like you can't talk to nobody. So I wanted to talk to people, and I was like, podcasting is a way to do that. You just talk to people, and then I originally started off thinking about talking to athletes, talking about how they got inspired in their journeys, and then I also wanted to do some entrepreneurs, and I just started to lead towards the entrepreneur YouTube, other dream chasers more than just athletes. So it's pretty dope.
There we go. I like that. I like that a lot. And actually, in in answering that question, also kind of was thinking about something as well, and like in the concept of your podcast and everything, it kind of made me wonder. And this is actually a question for both of you all, considering the really the main topic of this podcast being content creation to begin with. Being the fact that you all are both already content creators, and the fact that Sid has her own page, of course, and you already have your own podcast, were there specific other content creators that you can point to that were like, oh yeah, like I like what this person does, I want to like start out? Was there anybody like that for you? Or yeah, I guess I was just curious about that for both of you all.
Well, for me specifically, I obviously like since I was very young, I've always watched YouTube, and so because I was exposed to that platform at such a young age, I sort of grew to like different types of creators. I got into like the gaming side of YouTube first. That was like my introduction to YouTube, and I didn't really like I guess become inspired to sort of like make my own channel up until maybe like last year or even like the year before, just like seeing creators, specifically like Kai Foster. I really like the way that she does her videos and just how honest and just like transparent she is with the things that she talks about. And even with Harriana Hook, I know Corlin has interviewed her on his show, and just seeing women of color specifically be very transparent in the things that they're passionate about and just like expressing themselves in a way that most, I guess, influencers, whatever you want to call it, don't usually do. It was just really, I guess, not only inspiring but also reassuring to know that like as a viewer and as like another person, like I'm not the only one who sort of feels the way about certain things. And so yeah, that's sort of those were like the individuals that inspired me.
There we go. And Corlin, what about you?
My start on YouTube was actually, I regret saying it, but it was NBA 2K
Okay.
YouTube. I was making videos, having fun, and I started not to like the game as much anymore. And so then after that, I really wasn't into YouTube until like it was it was during the virus, and I wanted to try to inspire people to chase their dreams. So I started off before even the podcast. I just started off just trying to like encourage people to figure out who they are, to use self reflection and stuff like that. But after I got into the podcast, the person that I really looked up to, and I think it really shows because I can't even remember his name. I think it's Sean Evans, but the Hot Ones host.
Oh
And
yeah.
Yeah.
the reason why I can't remember him is because he's all about service. Like the show is about who he's interviewing. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I wanted to do. You know, I want my show to be about the people I'm interviewing. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I got to build a personal brand, but like when you watch the show, the spotlight's on them. So that's kind of my inspiration.
There we go. I like that. And that's a great person too, because you're right. Like that, I think that's probably most people. I think they recognize his face, but as far as like who he is in particular, I feel like they don't know. Just because I mean that you're right. That is reflective on the fact of how good of a job him and the show production does about making it about the guest that's on there. But no, very entertaining. Even like funny and asks great questions. Also, he keeps it really like I don't know. It's just the show just has a nice like I don't know, like a substance to it. It's just always like entertainment every single time. So I get that 100%. So I like that. And I guess a follow up question that would be so with that being said, with the content creators that we went over and everything, I guess when you're when you are like looking at a content creator um, or you are watching a podcast or something or like finding a podcast or seeking out different sources of entertainment online and stuff like that, are there specific things you both look for? Are there things that you like key in and like that attracts you to watch the show or watch the like whatever it is?
Well, for me, I most of the well, okay, so there are certain podcasts where like I I like know the host from like a different medium, whether it's like YouTube or they do stuff on social media.
Yeah.
So, and then there are also other podcasts that I sort of just like stumble upon. Like there's a podcast called Dissect on Spotify, and basically the whole concept is like taking certain albums and then going through each song on the album line by line, like beat by beat, just like really dissecting the whole thing. So like the I guess sort of the shows that I'm into or like how I sort of find shows, it's either because I already know the person hosting the show from a different medium and I like what they do and I like their personality and I can connect with them in a way, or it's like I just happen to stumble upon a really good show and I stick with it and yeah, so that's my answer.
I love it. I on YouTube, I'm big into like no cussing and stuff like that. So I listen to stuff with that, which drew me to you all because you all don't use a lot of profanity and stuff. And but also it's just like people trying to help people. You know what I'm saying? I try to learn and grow all the time. And so I listen to like Think Media, who's trying to help people with content creators, stuff like that. So yeah, if you're trying to help somebody, like you got a real message, then I want to listen. And then like I said, I wanted to be a 2K YouTuber, so I watch all the 2K guys. Not as much anymore, but they all transfer to like more real life content. So I watch all them. Like Sydney said, you watch the people that you've been watching, for the whole time. So yeah.
Yeah, and I like that a lot because one, I play 2K still to this day, and I would love to be in that like role because I grew up watching the same thing. Like kind of like I watched a bunch of like 2K content creators, and that really like I don't know. That was definitely my introduction to YouTube. Like I would occasionally watch YouTube for like music videos and stuff, but that's when I started actually watching people for their actual video content versus like music or something.
Mhm.
So I definitely relate to you in that sense. And then I think Sydney, you brought up a really good point as far as like when you watch a podcast, sometimes you're looking because you recognize the host from a different medium, and I think that's really like important to key on because I think we're noticing kind of a shift because we all like we all came up in the YouTube era, right, when YouTube was getting established, and we kind of saw literally the first YouTube video then on, and I kind of think of it now as like that is a thing in like the podcast industry. It feels like is dominated by people who are older and who have been in other things for so long, and now they just have a podcast. But I would say that that's kind of changing in the sense because I think now people are getting known for their podcast. Then you see them other places, so it's almost like the
Yeah.
inverse of that. Now, as time goes on, I think that's really cool. And so, I guess a question too I have, just because like we all have our own podcast now, but I'm just curious as to like what is it that do you think draws like what makes a good podcast? Like what is it? Like what's the secret sauce that like makes it interesting? Is it just having interesting people? Is it just interesting topics? Like what's the combination of things that make a podcast work?
Man, it's that conversation. It's that conversation piece. I've been lucky enough to teach a class about podcasting this summer because of my summer program. And so the one thing I always tell them is that if you bring good character, good charisma, good energy to your show, it changes it. Because if you got monotone talking, or you just like you don't feel interested in it, people ain't watching it. Because podcasting is a long term. It's hour, 40 minutes, 40 minutes. 2 hours sometimes. So
Mhm.
they gotta listen for a long time. So you gotta have personalities on there that's having fun. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I tell my students. That I'm like, if you're not having fun, you ain't doing it right. You gotta be having fun because it's conversation. So we want to see real people and real lives. So yeah.
There we go. Sydney, you want to add anything to that? Curious about your view on that too.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Courtland said. I do think that like obviously um being genuine, having that charisma, being able to bring that like I guess humaneness to the whatever you're doing, cuz like you can tell when something is a little too produced, a little too, like
Yeah.
showy, and I appreciate the podcasts that are more like I guess down to earth, and it feels more like a conversation and less like a like a TV show in a sense or whatever. So yeah, definitely. And like even the most like niche podcasts, like someone's trying to do a podcast on like boating, like if you can make it interesting, it's like it doesn't matter like what your sort of direction is or like what your style is or what you're trying to talk about. Like if you can just like I don't know, just make it seem like two people are having a or whoever having a conversation about whatever and just like make it feel real and genuine. And also make it so that your audience feels like they're in the room with you and
Yeah.
like, they can engage with the conversation as well. That also ties into it. I think that it can be easy to sort of like look too deeply into the production of how your podcast looks over the actual like quality of it. And so, yeah, yeah.
There we
I
go.
wanted to I wanted to add something real quick because we talk about the charisma, but Sydney touched on the different styles, and so there's also different styles. Like there's the charismatic version, but there's also like the research base, like with the
Yeah.
you got the true crime ones where you might not
Yeah.
have as much charisma, but what you're talking about is interesting, and you
Yeah.
bringing in all the facts and stuff. So it's definitely is I like that it's a diverse platform. You know what I'm saying, where you can bring your own self to it, and then there's gonna be people that want to listen to people like you. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that because it's kind of like in a sense like podcast is just like another form of media, just like or another form of like I guess like art in a sense because there is an art to conversations, right? And it's kind of like the podcast industry as a whole is kind of like music in a sense. Like you have your
Mm.
favorite artists, have your different genres, basically. You like it's I don't know, and I you have the podcast too that they don't have a set topic. Like I would say that that's kind of what we're aiming for too, is to not have like a set like in the very first one, like we talked about creativity, and we would love to have more artists on there just because we're artists ourselves. So
Yeah.
it'd be cool to interact with more artists. But our podcast, we want it to be kind of be about anything. In fact, when we were discussing starting it, one of the things was we kind of want to have something for everybody. Like a conversation or a topic or people that represent like all different types of backgrounds and things like that, just to have everybody has a place on our thing. And that's kind of like the whole point too, for whenever people are responding to our videos, or like say they're in our comments, or they send us a message or something like that. We want them to feel included, and we wanted to feel like we'll cover anybody, like anything that you're interested in. We're trying to like kind of get it all in one. um, and I kind of want to know if that was like the same kind of idea, I guess, with your podcast. Is just trying to make it like as diverse as possible. Did you have a set direction in the beginning that you were like, I kind of want to go in this like the like main like thing, or did you just like, no, I want to have topics about and talk to people from all different, like how did you kind of formulate that?
I wanted to. I had a specific niche that I wanted. I wanted it. I wanted to I can't say interview. I wanted to interview like I wanted to interview like entrepreneurs,
Yeah,
music artists, like up and coming people. You know, if you
right,
made it
right.
already, I don't really reach out as much.
Yeah,
But like the people that's up and coming, people that's growing at the moment, that's what I'm trying to do because I want to get that advice that's fresh,
yeah,
like
Yeah.
what's new. So my basic goal is to get life advice. Like it's through the lens of chasing your dreams, but I'm
right,
bringing people on to get their best advice, just how to live and how to live a good
Yeah.
life and how to live a happy life because that's what we want,
Yeah.
you know.
right. I gotcha. There we go. Well, that's so funny. Like, I guess lead in then. So, in your experience so far, like, what would you say? Like, if you had to kind of like get your like basic idea of, living your best life, what would you say would be some good life advice from you?
Oh man, it's too much. I learned too much over these past months.
I hear you.
But the main thing is loving everyone is big for me. Not that you have to be best friends with everyone, but all showing love is meaning like if they got something that they need and you can help them, you feel like you want to help them and you want to have a smile on your face, when you're around people, say hi. And I just think that's so important because I'm at this summer program this year and like all the kids
Mhm.
they all knew because of the virus. A lot of kids they had to leave, and then we had to like bring all the other campuses together, so it was three schools and I was just all in one. And
Right.
so nobody knows each other, so like what I got to go in there, what I'll be trying to like tell the other, because we're teachers assistants, so we kind of young but older than the kids, that little middle ground. And so I'll be trying to encourage people to just go talk to the kids, try to brighten their day just by saying hi, how you doing? That shirt is dope, stuff like that. And then love everyone. And then the other one is just be yourself. I've heard that a lot. Be yourself, but in order to be yourself, you have to figure out yourself. And so that's why on my show I say that you gotta self-reflect, and
Mhm.
that's gonna lead to growth because after everything, whether it's a success, a failure, you can learn from it and then you can grow. So I think if you always growing and you always loving everyone that you come in contact with, you're doing good for yourself and you're gonna be happy.
Definitely, definitely. And the love point, like that was something that we kind of touched on in one of our previous podcasts. I think it was like two podcasts ago,
Hmm.
that we kind of touched on because that's the thing. Like this life is so crazy, you know.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of nowhere, like middle of the sky, like floating, spinning millions of miles per hour. Like we're all going through a weird journey. Life has taken us through all types of ups and downs. It doesn't hurt to just like to love the people that you're around, like just like you said, like give love doesn't mean you have to be everybody's best friend, but just I don't know, just be a good person, be a nice person. Like there's no reason to
Yeah.
just like, have animosity, have just you know walk around frustrated all the time. Like we just have to kind of enjoy the time that we're here. We never know the like when our last day will be, so it's might as well just I don't know, have a good time with everybody and really just try to just I don't know, be happy and try to. And one thing I love that you said, because I've actually one of the first. It's not even really a poem. It's more of like a quote. When I first started writing was basically was writing on the lines of the least the like the most minuscule thing you can give to someone is a smile, but it's like the
Mm.
most beneficial thing in the sense because you never know who's going through something that's unbearable, and that like one smile can just like you know change the whole day, change the whole outcome. Because a lot of times too, like there's that feeling, right, when you're going through something, you're going through the most, it kind of feels like sometimes that you're by yourself, and that like somebody's not like that you're not seen. And so the fact that somebody can like look at you, eye contact, smile like that, I don't know, that changes a person's whole trajectory for their day. So I really like that. I like what you said there for sure. And
Yeah.
oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sid.
No, you're good. You're good.
What I was gonna ask him is fitting that podcast name is Dream Chaser, and so I guess my curious mind was kind of rambling around. And I was thinking, so what would you say was like your childhood or youth like dream thing that you
Mm,
wanted to do, and then what
mm,
is that now, and see like how that has
okay.
shifted or changed.
You hit me with the fire questions. It's too early for the fire
So,
questions, man. I wasn't ready. You said what was my dream childhood and what was my dream now.
hmm
I was a hooper. I was a ball player,
there
and
you
my dream for a while was to go to the NBA,
go.
and it didn't last too long.
Mhm,
I eventually wanted to be a teacher as I because I've been at the same summer program for like 10 years. That's why I'm talking about it because that's
mhm,
what I think about now. But I started off hooping. It was a journey with that, and then I just started to when I started to be with the kids and just like, cause like I was in the summer program and I was able to teach a group of kids from seventh grade to ninth grade. Like I was able to keep, like I convinced them to let me keep going along with them, going up
mhm.
the ladder with them. And so then I watched them graduate, and then I watched them also become teachers assistants. And so they was teaching assistants in the same class as me. Like it's just crazy. And so seeing people grow is like almost, if not more dope than seeing yourself grow. You know what I'm saying? Because you just like, yo, this person was like this,
Mhm.
and now they, they growing, they like this, they chasing their dreams. So yeah, that's one of the most powerful moments for me, and that's why I want to be a teacher, to see people grow and hopefully play a part in that. So that's my dream now. I'm about to graduate next semester, and I
Okay.
want to be a teacher, and I want to coach basketball,
Yeah.
and I want to help people on YouTube. So my dream right now is helping as many people as I can with this little short life I have. So that's the
There we
goal.
go. I like
That's
that. I like
fire.
that. Yeah, I like that a lot. And I like the age group too, because you're talking about change and seeing them like, over time and stuff. Because you're kind of right there, right at like a really transitional spot where, as we
Hmm.
alluded to earlier, like that finding yourself part, like that's really the ages where you start finding like
That's
yourself and
it.
who you're gonna be. Where's your like spot as far as like the things you like and stuff like that. So that's really like dope. I like that. And congratulations, by the way, on approaching
Yeah.
that goal. We're getting
Almost
there.
there.
Yeah. There we go. But I like that a lot. And I guess one question too, off of the fact that you brought up basketball, and the fact that you brought up the NBA is the childhood goal. Are there athletes that inspired you, just in general?
I tell you what, I couldn't. I mean, I'm kind of tall, 6 foot. That's tall for high school, but not for like college.
Mm-hmm.
But I ran extra slow. I had asthma. Um, and I wasn't athletic. I couldn't jump, none of that. But I was good. Like I had all the skill, I had all the fundamentals. I could shoot, but I started to realize I got passed on a lot. Like even just going to tryouts, because tryouts were a lot of running, and
Yeah.
I was dying because I'm like, oh my gosh, need my asthma puff, and so I got passed on a lot, and so then here comes Steph Curry, right? Here comes Steph Curry who can't jump,
Right.
who ain't the quickest dude in the world, and who just shooting threes. Play so I'm just like, this is how I play. I can shoot. I got the fundamentals, but I'm not athletic. And so to see him thrive without ever having to dunk and make highlight plays without being the most athletic guy in the gym, that was crazy to me. And so
Yeah.
that inspired me a lot. And so yeah, him. And then my dad used to show me Magic Johnson highlights. And
There we
so
go.
yeah, what I would describe myself is a jump shooter and a passer. That's what I pretty much did.
Mhm.
And so I just love, I would pick, cause like I thought I was pretty good, you know what I'm saying? So I would pick, like if we playing, I'd pick, the lower level guys on my team and play against the higher level guys, because I'm trying to see what the lower level guys can do. So I was the type of guy who's like, I'm gonna throw you this dime, you got to be ready,
Mhm.
and I believe you can make it. And so one thing I always believed in was that if I believe in you and I show you, like I know you can make this, it's gonna give you that confidence, and so that confidence is the key.
Mhm.
And if you don't got teammates that believe in you, you know, you ain't gonna make it because you ain't gonna believe in yourself. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I like that. And it's actually the perfect kind of, you think about it in a way, that kind of like the teammate system, right? And that
Mm,
believing in someone and giving someone that confidence, things like that, that naturally kind of breeds into the teaching element, right? Like giving your students confidence in
mm,
themselves and like letting them feel like they're valued and feel like they can contribute to, like, whether that's like a classroom discussion, whether that's like whatever you're working on, really. That's, I feel like that's a natural kind of, progression there. So that's really dope. I like that. I like the Steph Curry reference because you're right. Like it's a big thing because, and I guess this is like a overarching thing because he kind of revolutionized that sport in particular because of the
mhm,
fact that like you said, wasn't that athletic, didn't have like these physical gifts, because you see basketball players on TV, right? You see like they're like jumping like 50 inches off the ground, like all types of things like that. And like not everybody can do that. Also, not
mhm,
everyone is like above 6 foot or significantly above 6 foot.
mhm.
So when somebody comes along that is literally off of skill alone is, changing the game and dominating, that definitely makes it more like feeling like, like that inspires like the youth, really, if you think about it, just
Yep,
because it like
yep.
it gives them like that person looks like me, like I can like, I can go and do that. So I like that a lot. That's a great person to pick right there. That's I get exactly where you're going with that. So yeah, here we go.
Thank you, thank you. I was hoping I could ask a question
Yeah.
because I really like the name "Talking is Hard," and I just wanted to know like where y'all came up with that. Like, yeah, I just wanted to just pick y'all thoughts on that, pick y'all brains thoughts. I don't know, whatever you want to say.
Gotcha. Sydney, you want to go ahead and start with that one?
Yeah, so I came up with the name for it because I figured just thinking about like the whole concept of the podcast, like we're talking about a variety of different things, but
Mm,
the whole, I guess, like, thing is that we are sort of like opening up discussion on topics that like you usually don't really talk about in like normal, just like
mm,
everyday conversation, especially with like friends or family or people close to you. So I figure, as someone who is very introverted, talking comes very hard to me. So I figured, talking is hard because it is and it can be. And but we can make it easier by having these conversations. So
mm,
Yeah, and I guess to follow up with that, when she came up and presented that to me, basically like that, I thought it was perfect because in a sense, like we're going to talk about subjects that are naturally just difficult to talk about because sometimes they're just hard things to touch on. But then at the same time, like if we stumble in a podcast or we have like those lulls of like mess ups or things like that, talking is hard. And I mean, it's like
mm,
it's perfect. It kind of, I mean, it's a hard thing for everybody. Like, but I think that title and hopefully what we're presenting so far is authenticity in the sense
mm,
that, like
yeah.
it's okay to either everybody has conversations that are hard to have. And then also everybody
mm.
stumbles in conversation because we're human. So I thought it was perfect. And so that's why as soon as she like said that, she gave me like, actually she gave me a few, like presented a few to me. And I
Hmm.
was like, no, that one, yeah, that one's fire. I like that. So, yeah.
That's so dope. That's so dope.
Yeah, and I really, I actually, I pretty much I told her this like after every like podcast, but I'm really glad that we started this because I really enjoy the conversation. I think it's in a way like not only something I enjoy to do, and I love to like get these topics out and have the conversation, post them, and have the podcast out there, but at the same time, it's almost like an outlet in a sense too. Like and I think even Sydney said that before, is like it's like a way to just like get things out sometimes. So I
Yeah.
think that part of it is really enjoyable and really dope, something to look forward to. Just to know that we have this platform, like just to discuss whatever, and it's a safe space, and that's one of the things too, is we wanted it to be that, and that's part of the welcoming aspect for new people who want to come on and watch it, or new people who want to like hop on the podcast with us, is like that that is kind of an open space that we really want like everybody to feel included in. So yeah.
Yeah. And like obviously like basically, everything that Max said and just also like I also obviously like look at this as an outlet because it's important to just like we said, like just have conversations about stuff and to have like I guess to show this side of like having a conversation, like showing all the parts of it. That's why I specifically don't edit out like the moments where there might be certain pauses or like we stumble over our words because I want to, want it to like feel real and to feel like an actual conversation. So yeah, and just I don't know, it's been really cool. It's been fun. I think all the episodes have turned out really dope, and I'm excited to even put this one out because it's our first guest, and just like we've gone on this like whole role of like having these really dope conversations, and even the episodes that we have planned for the future I'm very excited for. So yeah, I'm very excited to see where this goes. And I also wanted to point it out a thing that you had said, Courtland, with the whole like, if you don't even believe in yourself, how you can expect other people to believe in you as well, because it's very true. And like, I think a big part of us sort of starting this podcast was because I think, we both sort of believed that we could do something like this. And like, because like it's easy to say like, oh yeah, like we should totally do a podcast together, and then it never happens. You know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
like, or oh, we only do like one episode, and then that's just it. But the fact that we're already on episode 4, I think is like amazing, and it just goes to show that like if you really want to do something, like there's nothing stopping you. You know what I mean? Like really the only person stopping you is yourself. So like just yeah, I'm really glad as well with how everything's turned out so far. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's powerful right there. That's powerful. I wanted to thank you for saying dope because I thought I was the only one, and I felt like I asked my guests, I'd be like, is dope even a word that we use? Like, am I just lame for saying that? So I wanted to thank you for saying that word.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Ironically, I say dope all the time, and I say for sure all the time. So that's
Yeah.
hilarious that we just said that quickly back to
Yeah.
back. But yeah, definitely something I still use at least. So you're not alone in that. And I wanted to ask you about something. One of our last podcasts was about school in general, and ironically, have someone on that
Yep.
has wants to be a teacher. So it's like I wanted to ask basically, what one we talked about kind of like our experiences in high school, the things that we would like to change and see different about high school. So I kind of want to ask that to you. What were the
Mm.
things and experiences that you had in high school that you enjoyed? What was it that you got from high school, like your biggest takeaways and stuff? But then also, what are things that you would have changed about high school, whether that was the environment or different things like that?
Okay, so high school was dope.
Mhm.
Um, Basically, in middle school, I was shy. I didn't talk much. I just chilling. And then two of my homegirls, they started calling me grandpa because I would like joke around and walk like extra slow. And now I just walk slow because my legs hurt after all the basketball and stuff. But I used to actually try to walk slow. And so those two, they really led me to try to be more charismatic because they were the type of people like that I want to be. Like they would love everyone. Like they would say hi to everyone. They would give people stuff. Like they'll share their food and all that stuff. So it was just like that drove me to want to be like them. And so then in high school, my freshman year, I was like, I'm a basketball player. You know what I'm saying? And that was what I was a little charismatic, but I was a basketball player. Like that was my goal. And then basketball, it didn't work out as much as I wanted it to that year. Like I barely made the team and stuff like that. And I didn't know a lot of people. And so after freshman year, high school just became trying everything possible. So I tried tennis, which is what I play in college now. Couldn't believe I played that. That's a whole nother story. But I tried tennis. I did a musical my senior year. I wanted to play golf, but they canceled it. I wanted to play baseball, but they canceled it. I never ran track though. I can't run for no reason. You got to give me something. You got to give me something to run for. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
tried everything, and I tried to get to know as many people as possible,
Yeah.
and that led me to who I am today. Just trying to talk to everybody, trying to show love to everybody, trying to give a smile. And then what would I change about high school?
Mhm.
I don't know, man. I'm an optimist. Honestly, I loved high school. Like there was not really much I would change, but I mean, I guess I would just say not now that I look back and I'm gonna be a teacher.
Yeah.
some teachers they teach to a specific style of student. You know what I'm saying? So like how we
Mm,
talked about earlier, like in music, you have different genres. In
right.
podcasts, you have different styles. People learn differently. Not everybody
Yeah.
learns the same way. And so I remember my freshman year, we had the biggest class at my school.
Mhm,
100. We had like, 100 is small, but it was the biggest class so far.
mhm.
And so, but then we graduated with 62, and that's because so many people got kicked out because of F's freshman year, because it was a couple classes where it was just like it was one that was a test base. If you weren't good at tests, you weren't passing. It's a lot of kids that ain't good at tests. And another one was all homework based. So if you weren't good at homework or you didn't have time to do homework, you wasn't passing. And
Yeah.
so yeah, what I would change is I want the classes to try to many types of students as possible, not just the one, not just the one type of students gonna get an A in the class, but try to reach as many type of students as possible, because the goal should be for every student to learn the best they can, not just the specific type that does good at tests. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That speaks volumes to me because I was someone that I feel like I did good in like classroom work. I feel like I did decent at homework
Mm,
and stuff like that. But I for some reason it was like test day. Like I could know the material. Like I could know it like for a fact. But then for some reason that moment comes where like the tests are handed out, it gets
mm,
all quiet and it's just I don't know, man. It was hard. Like I mean, and I would I still get like a B, but like I knew the material at an A level, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like it was always like I
mm,
didn't reach what I could have reached because I know I did the work to learn it, but it was just something about like test in general. And you're right, like there was a class that we had that like whenever we weren't having tests, we were having quizzes, so it was like like build up to the test. So it was just I was just struggling. I was like grasping at straws trying to stay above water. But yeah, I like that. I like that for sure because you're exactly right. I think that's in all things too. I think people just we're the thing is that it's crazy how similar we are, obviously, because we're all human beings, but at the same time, we're all so complex and different. And so I like that. I like the fact that you would, kind of switch it up and, try to give it like I don't know, like a basically like a level playing field to all different types of students and how they learn and stuff like that. I like that a lot. And I think that's a huge thing as far as like something like maybe some advice that like other teachers could take too. Not even
mm,
because I don't even think that they realize that that's the case or
mm,
realize that they're not catering to all their students. It's just that they've seen maybe they've been influenced by another teacher or this is how they were taught to instruct or like whatever like.
mm.
And so I think it's just something that you would have to really like think about and really have to focus on to really make sure that you're balanced in that aspect. So I like that. And I guess um, let's see. So as far as like you said like there wasn't like much that you would change. I think that was kind of like the overwhelming conclusion like we kind of came to was that like the high school like part of it like there's part of it that's really good right because you like we kind of alluded to that earlier but you're finding yourself you're developing yourself you're becoming who you're going to become one day. I think ours was just like really the things that we talked about and highlighted was a lot of based on inclusion, right?
Mhm,
And a
mhm,
lot of based on balance as well. Like, talking about like, you know, there's like the social hierarchy part, right? Where, the athletes are viewed maybe in a certain way, like I don't know, like just different
mm,
clubs, right? Like clubs where kids can feel comfortable. They have something in common. Like they have more things come like, and because I know some schools are better at it than others. Like some schools have like a ton of clubs, and then some schools just have like the very basic
mm,
one. So just making sure that that's across the like platform that there's a bunch of different clubs for people. I was a proponent of maybe shorter classes because I think our
mm.
attention span is only so long. And I remember having like in high school, we'd have some classes that could range like an hour and a half. And it's like, I don't even think that we focus in on a subject that long. And so like I think they should be shorter. Maybe we should have more classes that are based on life situations. Like
Mm.
even Sydney brought up like maybe having a class on like relationships, like as far as like not even like dating relationships, but like just with people, like maintaining relationships or like talking in general, like a social class, like things like that. Because not everybody's just like blessed with the ability to talk. Not everybody's blessed with the ability to have communication, and it's not natural for everybody. It's not comfortable for everybody. So I think we were kind of like thinking along those lines. And then one thing that we thought about that was really big that we both wish that would have been changed, or that we would love to help change, is how Black history is covered in
Mm.
schools, and really all history in a sense, because we live in a country that's one incredibly diverse in the sense that our history is not to be whitewashed, because there's so many different things, so many different like different people, different
Mhm.
races, different ethnicities that made America what it is. And so
Mhm.
it was kind of like we need to have history that represents that. But especially like obviously from the perspective of two Black kids, is that Black history just needs to be represented differently. Because in a way, sometimes it feels like we go from, like, at least in my experiences, and I loved history, so I always was
Mhm.
signed up for history classes. That's like my favorite subject. Even though I'm a writer, like my favorite subject was history. I don't know why, I was just kind of like drawn to it, but I felt like we would go from like slavery, and then like we touch on the civil rights era, and the civil rights era meaning Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and then we were all right on to the next
Mhm.
like thing. And
Mhm.
I just really wish that we would spend more time on that and really highlight that, because there's, and even maybe even talking about different Black people as far as like not even just like activists, but more so even talking about entertainers too, like famous entertainers,
Mhm.
how they change things, or how they, I don't know, just different things like that would be really cool to go over in class. And I know that we only like, it's so easy to say, right? Because the curriculum it's designed to fit in a certain time frame, and I
Mhm.
understand that. But at the same time, it just feels like if you're going to talk about it, let's talk about it in depthly, and not just talk about it like these few things and act like that's representative of Black history as a whole. Because
Mhm.
me and Sydney even talked about, I actually think that slavery, for instance, should be taught like separately. Like in other words, like it should
Mhm.
be its own chapter, not that like it shouldn't be included in the Black history section. Because although yes, that is a part of our history, it's not that that should be like one of the main focal points when you're talking about Black history in America. Like it should be more of the things that we did once everything was established, like once we had the ability to do things and
Mhm.
to kind of live. And I mean, you could argue that that's still in question to this day, but my point, I think the point is taken, that I just think that we could kind of expand on that, and be more in depth, and basically represent the people that aren't talked about in history. I was telling her too, I remember vividly, when I was probably in third grade. And like the history books actually have the information. It's a matter of if you actually touch on the subjects or not.
Mhm.
And I remember turning to a page like during the black section of this history book, and seeing, like, when I was again third grade, seeing like the Black Panther Party, and not knowing what it was, not having that conversation, not being exposed to it yet, and a teacher telling me that it was basically the Black version of the KKK, and how wrong that is in hindsight, and how off base that was with her to say. But at the same time, me as a kid, not knowing any better, and when you're a kid, when your teacher says something, that's like the gospel in a sense, because you're like, all right, well, like that's what that is. Or I remember a teacher later on, like around, I want to say fourth or fifth grade, like telling, like asking who Malcolm X was, because obviously I'm drawn to this person who has a letter for the last name. Like I didn't know him from Adam at the time, and just like, who's Malcolm X, and her saying, oh, don't worry about that, he's a like terrible person. Like, and then looking back on it in hindsight, I know what things could have led her to say that, and it opens my eyes now as an adult as to, wow, like I get, like now I know the reasons that she said that. But at the same time, now he's one of my biggest, like, somebody like that influences me, I guess as far as my beliefs, and like how I think and stuff like that. He's someone that I really look up to in a sense. And I don't know, I just wish that that part of history was just definitely more talked about. I know I just ramble, but that's a passionate thing for me. I feel like is that I just wish it was, more in depth, because I think if people, like, we'll go for example for the kids that aren't Black kids. right? If they understand Black history more and they understand more things about it, I feel like that gets rid of some of the like microaggressions and like all the little things they don't even realize are offensive. Like other kids don't realize are offensive. It's like, oh, okay. Like, and that keeps them from doing that because they have a broader understanding. But that's the whole point of education in so many things, right? To eliminate that ignorance. So I guess like after I rambled for that long, I guess I kind of want to know your your thoughts on that, even though I just, that hits home for me.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna be a history teacher, social studies teacher,
Mhm.
and it's one of those things where it's like they teach us American history in the way that they do it because they want to teach us to love America. You know what I'm saying? And so,
Yeah.
even in the like the official standards, it's like you want to teach people to be good democratic citizens in America. Like that's the goal, to be good citizens.
Right.
And so it draws that line where, as do you want to focus on the negatives or do you want to focus on the positives? And I just think it's every teacher, it's up to you, because you can the standards, they are flexible. Like they made them a lot. They're not as like you have to teach this at certain thing anymore. It's a
Mhm.
little more flexible. You just have to teach certain ideas, right? And so now it's up to teachers to decide, like, I can teach about culture and race without just talking about Martin Luther King. I can add something else as long as I touch on the exact same standard.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I think it's definitely something to add. But at the same time, the my only thing is just, I know when I'm in history class in high school,
Mhm.
it's a whole lot of information, right?
That's
And
true.
so what I liked about, like, when I went up to college, or maybe this could be a separate class in high school, but when I got to college and took a bunch of history classes, that's where I got into the more negative, the more in depth into every single thing. Because you take a whole class on just slavery, you take a whole class on just, you know um, World War II, and so like you get to learn a lot more in depth. Whereas if you learn in all this stuff in high school, and the teacher got to prepare you for a test and stuff like that, for the end of the year test, whatever it's called, I can't think of it.
Yeah.
Then that's why it kind of leads to teachers teaching more of the positive side, because that's what's going to be on the test. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to ask you them in-depth questions on those tests. So yeah, it's a balance. You want to include some of it, but I think it would be best if another class was added, like a Black History class
Yeah.
or like a slavery class was added. That way it doesn't get too caught up into what you need to learn for that test. Because at the end of the day, schools run on tests. That's how you get money. That's
Right.
how you get
Yeah.
credited. All that stuff. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
important.
Definitely, and I get that for sure, and I think that's probably like if I really had to like think about like a one of the things too that we discussed is like, okay, what's realistic, like what's a plan, because
Mm,
is everybody always has like the suggestions of what could be fixed, but how to fix it, and I
mm,
think like in hindsight, like that would probably be ideal, is there actually being a class on like Black history itself, and I think that we're probably on the, I know that probably for some schools that exist, but I think they're probably on the way as far as getting that included
mm,
across the board. I remember like my school, being proud of my school in the sense that the high school I went to was progressive in the sense that we had a women's history class, which I thought was really cool, and it really highlighted just great figures, like, and also like kind of what led to like one, it kind of highlighted that we're far from equality in the like, as it
mm.
is now, but what happened to get to where we are currently. And so I thought that that was really cool and a really good addition. But yeah, and I think, I guess that kind of goes into the point I had earlier of like maybe like condensing the classes, like having more classes
Mm.
throughout the day, but maybe condensing and them not all being like, again, because I know that we don't want to like overload the students either, but having some classes that are just life classes, like along
Mm.
with the learning part, there's also parts where you can just be a human for a second, let your brain take a break, and get to
Yeah.
like have good dialogue, like classes that don't have tests, classes that are just informative and where
Yeah.
you can have discussions and ask questions. I just think stuff like that would be huge. Just um, I don't know. I just think that there's so many times where we could avoid situations if there was just more education on them. Like,
Mm,
like maybe like this person doesn't turn into whatever if he can handle like rejection differently, or like if there's a conversation about that and what's that like, how to manage those emotions. Like, I don't know, like all types of things. I just feel like if there was more like education on that, because who's having that conversation with them? Because it's not gonna,
mm-hmm,
their parents aren't gonna
mm-hmm,
be able to cover everything, like, you know.
mm-hmm.
So it's like they have to get that somewhere, and if they don't get that anywhere, the only thing they can do is learn on their own, or enforce their own rules and then learn the hard way whether they were right or wrong. And that's, you know, I don't know if that's like the best thing. So
No,
Yeah.
that's hitting me because like I'm teaching podcasting technically, but really I'm teaching life and I'm teaching how to talk to somebody, how to have a conversation, how to make somebody feel comfortable in my elective at the summer program. And so that's just so powerful. Like I get the opportunity to try to just encourage them to be good people, to smile, to laugh. And it's like, yeah, this teach you how to be a podcaster, but what I'm really hoping is that they're gonna apply it to just everyday conversations. Hopefully, they'll be able to go up to somebody and be like, "Hey, how you doing?"
yeah.
Because that's one of the hardest things. Like even for me, like I've been doing it my whole life,
Hmm.
and before I go up to somebody, before I send out a message, before I sent the message to ask y'all to come on this show, hearts beating, like hearts like and you, no, for no reason, but it's one of the
Yeah.
hard things, and so you have like it's important to learn that stuff. And just a class like that, I'm so lucky to have a class like that where I can hopefully help at least a couple of the kids, be able to just have conversation with people. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And honestly, that it, to be honest, it's like the biggest, one of the biggest things that you need in life, right? Because I think one of the things that's happened, you know, at least in recent history, is I think that, you know, sometimes like as far as the thing, issues that happen in the world, right? Or like societal issues, there's a big divide, and like it's kind of, social media can kind of turn into high school in a sense, right? Where there's like the cliques, or like the,
Mm,
like if you like them, you can't like the other side, or you can't like anything that they like, and all that. I feel like a lot of that divide that we feel, that divide that we see, is based on the fact that we've forgotten how to have conversations. You know, I think that was only made worse by COVID. So I think it's good that that there's more podcast platforms like yourself, because people need to hear dialogue, they need to hear conversations,
mm.
they need to have conversations. Just because if we would just learn to talk to each other, one, we'd realize how much we had in common, and then it would just handle so many things. Like there'd be so many less issues if we could just talk it out, and if we could just, you know, find a common ground, really. So I think that's beautiful. Like I think that the idea of having people, like, you know, teach them how to have conversations, teach them how to, like, you know, like ask the right questions, so people do feel included, do feel important, do feel validated, I think is another thing.
Mm.
I think that's perfect, because I think we kind of lost touch of that as a society as a whole, really. So yeah, I think that's a great thing. So very beneficial.
So I had a question for Sydney, because
Yes.
Sydney, I remember you said you were more introverted, stuff like that, and so did you have those people like in school, to those people, those butterflies that would come up to you and just like say hi out of the blue, or just like give you a smile that would just like help you feel better? Like did that happen?
So funny enough, like the way that I sort of met my, I guess my best friend, like she was that social butterfly in a sense.
Mm,
She was the one to like approach me, and since like for example, we met in middle school, and like in the sixth grade specifically, we pretty much like had every single class together, so we were just always around each other. And so she was like the social one, the talkative one, and I was the quiet one. So I feel like we kind of just balance each other out. And I think just like being around her, and then also seeing how she interacted with, like, because she was the type of person that like she would have multiple different friend groups. Like she wouldn't really hang out with just one specific group, all the time. So just seeing her sort of like had an influence on me. But for the most part, not really, because I pretty much stayed to myself a lot, and I was really like, I don't want to say like socially inept, but I just had a hard time talking to people just in general on the regular, and even like in my own personal life with with my family. So yeah, I didn't really like have anyone at my school or like personally that like kind of, exposed me, I guess, to that like social side of things. But yeah, I guess the only person I can really credit is like my friend who, like, over time, as our friendship developed, I started to, like, I guess, well, she started to rub off on me and, in a sense, like, helped me become more social in a way. But for the most part, I really didn't have anyone. So, yeah.
No, but see, that's powerful because like we were just talking about, you get to class, you don't gotta convince every kid to be that person. But if you could just
Yeah.
convince one, like it just
Yeah.
all you needed was one person. Now you got your best friend. Like just convince one to take that step to go and say hi, to put a smile on their face. Like that's all I'm hoping, just for one of the kids to be like that, and it's just
Yeah.
like because it's powerful, it impacts. I had a teacher, one of my favorite, probably my favorite teacher in college, because he pretty much taught about life. It was a teacher class, but he taught about life, and so he was like, you never know who you impact. So he he would tell us to reach out to people, who impacted us just by like saying something. And I already told y'all about like those two friends that I had that really helped me, start to be more charismatic and stuff like that. So I reached out to them, and that was a real cool time because it's like I'm saying thank you. They don't think it was a big deal, but it was. You know what I'm saying? And all it takes is one person, two people, and that's just so powerful about life. Like they say that you only get like one or two like super true friends, in your whole life. But if you got them, that's great because they
Yeah.
help you a lot. They help you a ton. And so, yeah, I'm sweating, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, but that's real though, because like you said, like if you're lucky enough to have that one person, it's essentially like change your life in that way. Like definitely hang on to those people too, because
Mm.
it's hard to come by, like really genuine people just in general. So yeah, and like it's hard to be that person to like make that move also. So but I think yeah, I think it definitely takes a lot of courage to sort of just like put yourself out there, or even if you are sort of on the receiving end, it can also sort of be hard to like receive that attention as well, especially if you're not used to it. So yeah, definitely I think the sort of go both ways. But I think one of my favorite sayings that like people say is that like people may not always remember what you say to them, but they'll definitely remember like how you made them feel. And I try to live by that because it's true. Like we mentioned before, like with what Max said, like one of the smallest, most basic things you can do that can change someone's life is just by giving them a smile, and like stuff like that really does go a long way. And so yeah, I definitely agree with you on everything that you said. So yeah.
I appreciate that little bit of Maya Angelou right there, Sydney. That's big. But for sure, that's a true statement though. That's facts. That like this conversation could happen, and we could go on like weeks from now, and maybe not remember like the exact things, but if we could remember that it was a cool time, like it was fun. We experienced like we had a fun dialogue where we were able to like laugh, smile, have all that back and forth. We'll remember that part of it. That's just a
Yeah.
big thing in life. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's dope. That's a fact too. So there we go. So I guess Courtland, a question I had for you because you alluded to like um, like the cursing part, like not maybe finding content that's not like having as much like profanity and stuff like that earlier. What are like your favorite like currently like what are your favorite forms of entertainment like for yourself just to watch or you can even name like specific people things like that.
uh, I'm a sports guy. Chris Paul, 41 points.
There we go.
Just walking bucket. He used
Yeah.
to be my favorite until Steph, but second favorite still counts.
Hmm.
Um, I listen to music with no cussing. Uh, I want to start a radio show, playing music without profanity for upcoming artists. We try to
Yeah.
get that going. We're gonna see how that works. And then I don't know. I mean, honestly, talking to people, that's what I have fun doing. I play 2K. I do that. Um, but yeah, just watching stuff. I don't watch a lot of stuff, but like I don't know. I watch like now I'm growing really. Like that's what I mean, like growth mode. So I watch like Think Media to try to get better at YouTube. I watch a lot of Hot Ones interviews to try to get better at interviewing.
Hmm.
So right now I'm
Yeah.
in growth mode. So But yeah, for entertainment, I'll just sit back, watch sports. I'm watching the Marvel stuff. Loki's on. I'm loving it. So yeah, Disney. But yeah, I just have a good time. You put me on Disney Plus, I'm living large. I'm enjoying life. So
For real. This is dope because in a sense I feel like I'm like seeing a reflection because
mm,
like I'm also an avid 2K player myself and definitely a big fan of like Marvel stuff like that and in sports all the way there. In fact, that was like I don't know. Now it's I don't know. Like I'm kind of in a like a fluctuation as far as like what I want to go to with like what I want to do school wise, just because
mhm,
like for the longest time I wanted to be a sports analyst. Like I wanted to be a sports
mm,
commentator of some sort, and I was that. I was that at the college I was at, which was Spalding University in Louisville, Kentucky. I was commentating like the games and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed that. And then ended up transferring to Western, and I still wanted to continue journalism. Like I was still like heavy into journalism, which hurts sometimes because I'm a creative writer. I'm a
mm,
poet, so like I couldn't use that in that class, like
mm.
that writing, that like style of writing doesn't translate. But I still was like in love with it. But now I work in the mental health field, so it's like I don't know. And now it's like it's tough. It's tough to figure out what I'm gonna do there. But it is really cool to see the similarities though, as far as we have. Because I again, huge sports fan, love 2K. Have to get your information after that, as far as that goes. But yeah, I'm with you. Those are kind of the same forms of entertainment for myself. So that's what's up.
You know, those sports, what I played, um, I was always in work mode.
Mhm.
Like I played basketball. I had to get extra good in order to play because I wasn't athletic, like I said. So I was in the gym hours and hours and hours. And then I played tennis, college tennis. Now I'm like, hold up. Like these guys wasn't as good in high school, you know what I'm saying? So I gotta work my butt off in that, working. Like I still find like I don't think I'm gonna play any more college tennis, but I still go up to the tennis courts trying to work on games because I'm just so used to it. And
Yeah,
so now when you talk about that period, it's like I gotta transfer all this effort to something
yeah.
because like I'm not transferring to just sports anymore. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm in now. Like, what do I do with all this time that I used to spend grinding for sports? And so now I'm trying to spend it on YouTube. I'm trying to get my Instagram up, whatever the heck I just said. I'm trying to get the Instagram up and stuff like that. So I'm trying to make sure I transfer that energy to growing on things that help me, in the future as well, instead of just sports. So that's been powerful.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's great, especially think the aspect of like working, right? Because when you have that work rate, I think it translates like across all different forms. Like I think that just helps you be a well-rounded person in general. Whenever one door closes or one avenue you're like put a halt on, you can kind of use that same mentality and
Mm,
use it for different things. So that's dope. I like that. I like that a lot. I think that a lot of people can relate to that too, because if we're being like honest, like we kind of mentioned this in the podcast a little bit because we were saying like to value like we were talking about it in the context of uh, you know valuing the like art programs and stuff like that at a higher level
mm,
because there's more of a chance for someone to become an artist than it is for someone to become like a professional athlete. And so you think
mhm,
about it, most people's like final playing days or career days are in high school, and then
mm,
they're used to like the practices or like the monotony of like training, like the off season, all that kind of thing. They have to put that somewhere, and like
mhm.
they have to kind of refocus that to like a career based thing or like college classes or like different things like that. So yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that statement for sure. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. Um, Yeah, I guess another like I guess question has come. I don't know. I'm curious, so I'm just I'm rolling with it. But so what made you like? I know you talked about like, the basketball and things like that, but what was it
Mhm.
that was there something that happened or something that like was like made you go to tennis? Like because
Oh,
those like they have similarities, but they're obviously two drastically different sports. So I kind of want to know
uh,
what like sparked that that shift.
mm. I gotta correct you on that because it ain't nothing similar between basketball. It's not.
I was just saying the
Oh,
running element. That's it.
oh,
That's
it's nothing. Oh, it's nothing. I played tennis for fun. My homeboys played tennis.
I
I
got you.
was in the mode of trying new stuff. I hopped on the tennis court, had no clue what I was doing, and basically I got better at tennis because I was talking stuff with my homeboys. Cause like if you go out and you hit it over the fence, they gonna be like, "Hey man, what you doing?" And so that's how we got good. We were competitive.
Mhm,
None of us knew how to play, but we, you just kind of figured out using athleticism.
mhm.
And but yeah, I never expected like tennis was literally my off season. I
Yeah,
was a I was a decent soccer player, but see, soccer's like basketball. It's passing, and I was good at passing, so I could play soccer because I could pass it open person. That was easy.
yeah.
I couldn't shoot. I couldn't do nothing else, but I could pass it open person. I was pretty good at that. And
Right.
then basketball season was the main season, and then tennis was like off season. I'm just here to have fun,
Mhm,
and I'm expecting to go play college ball, and I get a call from a coach, and
mhm.
I'm thinking it's a basketball because I went to Webster, same division as Spalding, and I get a call from coach. I'm thinking it's basketball. He like, you willing to play? And I'm like, then he's like, tennis. And I'm like, tennis? You sure? You sure you called the right? Like, I think I literally asked him like, are you sure you called the right person? Because like I'm not really that. And he was like, yeah, I want you to play tennis for me. And so that's how I got to college tennis, man. And oh, it's I never really loved the sport of tennis.
Mhm.
Um, but I pushed myself to get better because that's who I am. I want to get better at stuff. I
Yeah.
love the grind. I love getting better.
Mhm.
And so it was it's the most frustrating sport to play because it's not like basketball. If you get good at making layups, you're gonna miss very few layups in the game if you
Yeah.
practice enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you practice that same shot in tennis, you will still miss it more times than you like. I'm like
Yeah.
literally the statistics is 70% of points come from unforced errors from misses.
Right.
And so tennis taught me how to deal with failure. Because in basketball, I knew as long as I worked hard, I can get good enough to get in the game. And
Right.
eventually I did that, became captain and stuff. But with tennis, if it's like with tennis, it's not about that
Right.
because I worked my butt off. Like I would work all summer, and then the kids on the team wouldn't be doing a lot in the summer because they would, soccer players or whatever.
Right.
And then they still beat me when I get back to, to the school. And so it's just like how to it taught me that value of work, how we talk about when you teach the kids,
Yeah.
because you gotta just love working because it might not necessarily lead to you getting that because I was always trying to get in that six by the six guys. I was
Yeah.
always seven, eight,
Mhm.
seven, 6.5. Like I'll play singles, not doubles. And it might not always lead to that, but what it led to was learning about myself. And that is a core principle of my podcast is that the middle is where you grow. You know what I'm saying? It's not about like the dream is the dream, but it's really not like if you get to the dream, that's dope. But if you don't, you still learned all that through the middle about yourself if you
Right.
going through it the right way. And so by learning about yourself, now you can apply, like we talked about earlier, you can apply that work effort to something else. And you can
Yeah.
apply that work effort to YouTube or podcasting. And so that's what tennis taught me. It taught me how to deal with not being the best, not being that great or something. No matter what I did, I
Yeah.
couldn't like it wouldn't click. And
Mhm.
that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Even if you don't get there, it's okay. And I had to learn how to be okay with that. And that was just I'm passionate about that because it was frustrating.
Yeah.
Like I was the like I don't get angry,
Mhm.
but tennis makes me angry. Like it'll make me angry.
Yeah.
And I don't get angry. Like so yeah, I could talk about that all day, but yeah, I learned how to deal with just like failing at something or deal with not getting to that point that you want to get to so bad,
Yeah.
and learning that that's okay because everything that I learned from the sport makes me a better person. And
Yeah.
so that's what I had to learn, and I'm still learning that now. You know what I'm saying? I'm still learning that. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that because it unlocks a broader topic in that sense of like
mm,
like the failure part. I like how you spoke
mm,
on that because I think a lot of times the toughest opponent that you're ever gonna like compete against in anything or the toughest like person to like have to get past in life is yourself. And so, in fact, I was literally just watching Creed with Michael B. Jordan, and it was like a scene where Rocky like points to the mirror and is like, "That's going to be like your toughest opponent. Every time you throw a punch, he throws a counter." And it made him like like practicing, like go through boxing stuff. But it's such a true statement in the sense that like you're always kind of battling yourself. It really, if you think about it, what you're training for, what you're working for in any sense, whether you're working on being a better writer, being a better podcast like host, being a better whatever it is, you're trying to beat the version of yourself that was previous. Like you're trying to make a better version of yourself. So you're always trying to beat you. You're always trying to outcompete you. And I think that's like what motivates people a lot of times to work, and they don't even realize it. It's like you're not training for whoever it shows on the schedule or whatever, or you're training for yourself. Like, how can I be better than me from a few months
I
ago?
was yesterday. Oh, that's
Yeah.
powerful. That's powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah. And it also teaches you like to guess to add on it, it also teaches you a very important lesson on like how not to like be comfortable and like how
Yeah.
to embrace, growing and going through that struggle and like understanding the importance like of failing and understanding the importance of like okay failing at something but then learning how to improve on it and to sort of like learn from the failure. So that's also a very big thing. I think that's really cool that you learned that from playing tennis, like the fact that it taught you that lesson. So that's really dope.
Yeah.
Man, I'm having nightmares right now, yeah, man. I'm having memories right now. Whew. But I love it though.
Yeah,
I love the reflection and the growth, you know. But yeah, I'm definitely having it. I'm sweating. I'm feeling it now.
I
I'm
hear you.
feeling it.
I can imagine. Ironically, I did track in high school, but I can't
Mm,
imagine tennis. Like I feel like tennis would just be stressful for me. I actually like watching it. Like it's especially like right now. I think like I was just watching like Serena Williams had to withdraw the other day,
mm.
but just I don't know. Like it does seem like one of those sports that's just like I don't like it. Like you said, you can kind of see that from watching it, right? That like
Oh yeah.
the fact that you could try the same shot or like you practice this shot all the time and then like this one instance it just doesn't go, like you just hits the ball like it's just I don't know, it seems like it would be stressful for sure. And I just was I don't know, I wasn't like prepared for all the lateral, like so I just kind of let it be. I don't know. But no, it definitely you can tell it's one of those. I get how it would be causing nightmares for sure because it seems like it would. And I played a really physical sport in football, but I don't know. Tennis for some reason seems more daunting with the like levels of mistakes. Like because like you said, like because there's similar things in football, right? Like with basketball, in the sense that you can practice layups all the time. Most of the time, you're not going to miss layups in games, but and like you can practice like firing off the ball, all those things. You can do those right, but it seems like in tennis, like doesn't really matter. Like you can you can practice all the time. Like and there's just still gonna be those moments, those instances. Like it just what are you gonna do? But yeah, so I get that. That's awesome though. I like the fact that you kind of like something kind of I don't know that it made you like have that eye opening moment with failure. Like I like that something like that or something I don't know just in your life just kind of clicked like that. That to me is really cool. So yeah. It's a profound thing that I don't know. I feel like we kind of need to learn, right? At some point or another,
Mm.
like something has to do that. Something has to like make us feel like I don't know. We just have to get better. Like have to keep going with it. Have to keep working at it. So yeah, I like that you found it in tennis and I would say maybe even an unlikely source to find that. So yeah, that's really cool. It's something you can take with you obviously too if like you talk about like coaching basketball for instance, like players are going to need to know like it's not about the falls, it's about how you get back up from them. And they have to learn that. That has to be like a something that's instilled, and I feel like once people find that, that's what it's like they're like point, like once they kind of have that instilled in them, like because sometimes I feel like the first fall that we have in life can be so dramatic and be like man, like it's so devastating and just kind of like what do you do now? Like, or like if you put all your eggs into like a basket and things didn't go well, but really in reality, it's like, that's like the perfect like place to go. Like, like once you fall, you can only get up from there. And I don't know, I think it's important that you have went through that. So when you go to that role of like a coach, like that's like the perfect, I mean, you basically can paint for them that you were there. So I like that. That's, I, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that part of it. And I appreciate that you recognize that in yourself, because I think you'll be able to project that just as easily as you were for me in Sydney to the like kids you one day coach. So yeah, there we go. I want to say that too. I enjoyed this conversation a lot. Just because I don't know. I feel like we hit a lot of like, I don't know, different and unique points, and I guess that's the whole goal, right? Um, of this. So I feel like we talked about a lot of different things, and I don't know. Like you had very interesting answers and very honestly intriguing answers. It made like like I was able to kind of like at least like you kind of in your answers you like sparked something else like in a
Mm.
way, or like added in a piece that was easy to build off of. So I really like that too. So I can tell you do this.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm glad we got to have you on for that, because that part is awesome. So
yeah. I was actually
is
like, oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna
You
say
got it.
like, I had like this like under I guess because I the thing with me is I like whenever I find new people that I'm like interested in, I like to go back and see like how long they've been doing what they've been doing or like previous stuff they've been doing. I didn't realize that like you had only started your podcast last year. I had this idea that you had been doing this for a while because the way that you do your show, it's like it's really impressive. Like the way that you ask your questions and just like the different segments you have, like I was very just like am just impressed by you as a person, and obviously like hearing your story today, like you're just a really cool person, and I'm really glad we got to have this podcast. And yeah, I just wanted to put that in there.
For sure.
Man, I'm thankful for y'all, honestly, man. Because, like, you know, usually the first episode of a podcast is like, okay, we just starting. But
Yeah.
y'all dropped
Mhm.
fire on y'all first episode. So I was like, oh, yeah, let me support this right now. You know what I'm saying? Let me see if I get on the show. And so, yeah, I just want to thank y'all so much. It's nice. I came here without like having to prepare all my questions and all that stuff. I'm
Hmm.
just like, I get to just chill, have a conversation. And I just think y'all are so dope. I love what y'all are doing. So yeah, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to come and talk. We went to a whole bunch of stuff. Like we were going to
Yep.
talk about content creation, and then it turned up a conversation about life, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
It's pretty much what it is, and that's what I love about podcasting. Let's talk about life. Like no matter
Yeah,
what niche
yeah,
that you have, no matter whatever you want to like base your show on. At the end of the day, you're talking about life, and one of the best things that I like is just that life advice. Like because everybody they bring something new to the table, and so that's so powerful. Oh, and thank you for the compliments. I was thinking about that. I had somebody that had asked me if I went to like journalism school, and then it hit me. I was like, wow, like people think that I'm pretty good at this, so it gave me some confidence to keep going.
yeah.
And so I'm just gonna keep trying to grow. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to come here and talk about it with y'all. So that's dope.
there we go. Do you have any advice for us, being that we're still in our baby step
Yeah,
stage
yeah.
of our
We'd love
podcast?
some, yeah, some words
Yeah,
of wisdom. Whatever you can provide, that was gonna
yeah.
be one of my questions too.
Well, I teach a class, so I'll just tell you what I tell the kids. Start off with the elevator pitch is what I call it. Like
Mm,
just something that embodies your show. And you guys said it during the episode. I think you when you were explaining like what talking is hard meant or something, like you guys said it. I was like, that's a great elevator pitch. So start off with that. Just like when people hear you show, I would say that because like when they come in, like you giving them value right away. You know what I'm saying? And then yeah, I mean I think you all are doing great. Just keep what you going. I just I just like having an elevator pitch I like bringing the charismatic and making the other person comfortable, which y'all did good. I'm naturally comfortable too, but y'all did good at asking questions. So yeah, I think y'all got it. And I just say just keep going because what I tell the kids is that we always growing as podcasters, and
Mhm.
so the more you do it, the more you get better. Because my first episode it wasn't the best, but it just keep on going, and so you just keep on growing, and then 20 episodes later, I think I've done like 30 episodes now. 30 episodes later, you just like, man, I've grown a lot, and to see how much you've grown is one of the most powerful things about it. So yeah, you just keep going, keep putting stuff out there. Don't be afraid to try stuff. And yeah, man, I'm grateful.
There we go. Thank you so
We
much.
appreciate it.
For sure. There we go. All right, I think that includes this episode. Once again, thank you, Courtland, for being on. Definitely check out the Dream Chasers podcast, and we would love to. Me and Steve were talking about that before. We would love to be on yours as well one day, just to
Oh,
have maybe a
Yeah,
totally different conversation. Just
mm-hmm.
to I feel like you can never run out of good content. So, yeah, again, thank you for being on, and we really appreciated it.
One last thing I wanted to add is I learned this from a motivational speaker. Actually, I did a training because I was thinking about getting into that. And he
Mhm.
said after every single show he did, he would ask the whoever he was spoke for, or something, he would ask them if they met, exceeded, or if his if his product or speech met, exceeded, or went below his expectations, and then asking them how they can improve. And you guys already did that. You already said. But that's something like if you ever bring a guest, what I've learned will help me tremendously is if you bring a guest on, either during the show or after the show, ask them those questions because that feedback helps you grow. Like you can grow from yourself, but they might drop some gems. Like
Yeah.
I just had a homeboy that said you might want to try to make your background a little better. So maybe I'll add a couple posters or something to make it a little more dope. So yeah, you can always get new ideas from people, and that's the last thing I wanted to say. But yeah,
There we go. Yeah.
and obviously, thank you to everyone who watched this episode. And obviously, go and support Courtland. Go support Dream Chasers. It's a great show. You'll really enjoy it. And yeah, like what Max said, just thank you again to Courtland for coming on. And hopefully, we'll have more guests in the future and have more awesome conversations such as this one. And thank y'all for watching. We appreciate you giving us y'all's time. And yeah, we'll see y'all in the next one. Bye bye.